our current station. Well, I told you guys that I wasn't going to watch that State of the Union address live, and I didn't watch as much of it as I could. As much of it as I could, because I stood all I can stand till I can't stand no more. But instead of, and there's so many things I can say about that. I mean, so much I could say about the State of the Union address. But I thought it would be better to simply allow Joe Biden to respond to his own State of the Union address. You see, there was once a Joe Biden who was a lot different than Mr. Robinette of 2024. This Joe Biden is from 1989. In 1989, Joseph Robinette Biden of 1989, of 20th century Joe Biden, provided the response to George Herbert Walker Bush's speech, one of his speeches. And I just want you to enjoy this blast from the past. And you tell me if you notice anything different between 1989 and Mr. Ice Cream Man of today. It's clip number 2. Go.
To put it in very personal terms for a moment, Joe Biden, me, I would settle for a world in which I could worry about the same kinds of things that my parents worried about, in which I only had to worry about the grades my children got in school rather than the drugs they're being exposed to. In the parking lot as she loads her groceries into the car, in which tonight I could call my mom just to wish her pleasant dreams. Not for the... In a nutshell, the president's plan doesn't include enough police officers to catch the violent thugs, not enough prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time to cut the Customs Service, the Coast Guard, and the Border Patrol. We think we should do more to stem the flow of drugs across our borders, and we think we should go one. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it. And we don't have to promise a world without worry or fear. We're not asking for that much. All we have to do together is to keep our promises and stay together. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you, 1989. Thank you. See, folks, this is as much as for me as it is for you. This is Operation Keep Abe's blood below boiling. See, when I tell you the things that are happening now, they're happening intentionally. Because old Joe, 1989, not old Joe, shuffling. Lincoln Riley, football coach in Oklahoma. This man called Lincoln Riley. Anyway, stay focused, Dave. See, back then, all I had to worry about my children's grades. I didn't have to worry about them, the drugs they were against school. Oh, you mean like fentanyl? Fentanyl? From your friends, the Chinese? And I don't think we realize just how the reality is that with the drug phenomenon crossing our southern border, a lot of people talk a lot about the drug cartels, but really, do you realize that they are the junior partner in this arrangement? The senior partner is China. You see, years ago, we ceded territory on the ports that were taken over by China. And China has imported into Mexico, printing places where they're making the fentanyl in the form of pills and things of that nature. It's the Chinese that are driving it. The same Chinese that old Hunter, my boy, was emailing back and forth saying, make sure you put 10% on the side for the big guy. So when you see that is porous, it's not accidentally porous, but old Joe, 1989, had a problem with that. 1989, Joe had a problem with thinking that his mom might be mugged on the streets of, I don't know, New York, San Francisco, where the world is a porta potty, the whole city, parks. And oh my goodness, can you believe it? Old Joe in 1989 could not believe that anybody would want to hinder the work of Border Patrol. I mean, if we're going to take 1989 Joe's advice of going after the drug lords where they live, I guess he had to stop taking his 10% off the top from China. So I just want you guys to see that when you behold what is happening now, I want you to notice that this is intentional. Because even in the past, no matter what your party affiliation was, there used to be a common understanding that we needed to have solidity at our southern border in order to have a country. That's so 1980s. I'm going to move on to something that is vitally important that I don't think is getting the type of attention that it should now, because we have this thing about recency and immediacy and not very much capacity. When I say we, I'm talking about the population generally, not everybody. And we have wonderful people in this audience, but I'm talking about generally in our society, to where we don't realize many of the crises that are upon us now. And won't realize until it's too late. Last week, the Heritage Foundation hosted an event titled The Birth Dearth: Why the Decline in Marriage and Total Fertility is a Genuine Crisis. And let me just tell you this now. I want to take calls on this. We're going to open the phone lines in the third segment. And what I want to do specifically is to invite people to call who are single, who have never been married. And I'm simply going to ask the question, why do you think you aren't married? And I'll tell you now, I'm not going to condemn anybody. I'm not going to attempt to challenge your premise at all. I just want, what I want to do is to take what is presented before me, because I have a study and all of the data, white papers and all of that. And I just want to put that up against real world testimony, where you live, what you're experiencing. So if you are listening to me and you are unmarried, you've never been married, I just want to ask you what's going on in your world, if you're willing to call, to let me know what's going on there. I want to pit what your experiences are against the data that I have before me. So here's the data that I have before me. And this is from the Heritage Foundation's event titled The Birth Dearth: Why the Decline in Marriage and Total Fertility is a Genuine Crisis. According to the data, quote, the demographic crisis in the United States is real and a threat to society as we know it. The U.S. and almost all developed countries, I want you to notice that, the U.S. and almost all developed countries are failing to replace their populations. In 2022, the total fertility rate in the United States was 1.665 births per woman aged 15 to 44. I don't think a woman is 15, but I'm going to just let that slide. Back to the data. Quote, this is well below the necessary replacement level of 2.1 births per woman among the 38 countries in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Fertility was even lower. So these are the birth rates for the U.S., 1.665 births per woman. In other nations that are part of the OECD, European nation and others, it's even lower. Countries and civilizations cannot sustain themselves with that. Lindsay Burke, a policy expert at the Heritage Foundation, opined that a majority of undergraduate students now take 6 years to complete a 4-year degree. That extension of time often results in a delaying of marriage and family life. That's true. Our sister Cynthia said, hey, they may not be a woman at 15 years old, but some of them are having babies. That's true. That's true. My friend, David McGee, who runs Hype, a youth organization in New Orleans, he talks all the time about people, the young people coming to the meetings, have no concept, no desire whatsoever to be married. Some of them want to be parents, but they don't even want to be married. And so I just want to talk about what's going on the ground. Going back to Lindsey Burke, the Heritage Foundation policy expert. She went on further to explain that this extension of schooling, like taking 6 years, like just think about that. The majority of undergraduates today take 6 years to complete a 4-year degree. I'm not throwing shade on anybody. But what is going on? The majority. So it's now become an exception for a 4-year degree to take 4 years. That's a minority position. The majority of undergraduates takes longer. Goodness gracious. So according to Lindsey Burke, this extension of schooling typically leads to an extended adolescence. As she explains, quote, a period of limbo during which people who historically would have taken on adult roles of work and family largely defer assuming those responsibilities as a result of this protracted educational pursuit. Now, she's not saying it's a cause and effect type phenomenon. It's just an observation that she's making within the broader analysis of the total fertility rates being so low. So when we come back, and there's so much I want to get to, in the third segment, I'm going to share a little bit of information, an update on insanity that's happening in Haiti. But I want to take calls specifically from people who are unmarried, who've never been married. So what's happening in your own life? If you are not married, why do you think that is the case? Are you interested in being married even? Some of you may not even want to be married. I just want to contrast real world conversations with the empirical data that I have before me. And I think this will be an important dialogue, really, for the entire audience. Stay with us here on the Hamilton Corner.
Hi, this is Pastor Jim Scudder, and we're so excited because In Grace, as we've been broadcasting for a long time in the evenings here on American Family Radio, will now be heard at 11:30 in the morning Central Time. We would love for you to listen. If you haven't heard us before, tune in for some Bible teaching and some adventure right here on this American Family Radio station.
Too busy to catch your favorite shows on the radio? Have no fear, because the AFR app is here. Download the app to have access to live broadcast, music streaming, as well as each podcast. Whether you're at work, at home, or on the go, it's easy to listen to AFR. The AFR app is available not only for Apple and Android users, but also on Amazon Alexa and Roku. Download the AFR app today at afr.net.
Clarity on the Holy Spirit. This is David Wheaton, host of The Christian Worldview. The Holy Spirit is the most used and abused member of the Trinity, says our most recent guest, Costi Hinn. Costi would know, growing up in the extreme charismatic movement as the nephew of world-renowned faith healer Benny Hinn. God graciously saved Costi out of that error, and now as a pastor and author, he aims to help Christians accurately understand and walk by the Spirit. The Bible says, if the Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, He who raised Christ Jesus from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through His Spirit who dwells in you. Hear the interview with Costi Hinn on Knowing the Spirit at thechristianworldview.org, and then join us this weekend for another topic that will sharpen your worldview.
Listen to The Christian Worldview with David Wheaton, Saturday mornings at 8 Central on American Family Radio.
Spiritual Heritage Tours with AFA President Tim Wildman include a tour of Washington, D.C. and a separate tour of Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown with Stephen McDowell, President of the Providence Foundation.
Now, Williamsburg is very significant in the early history of America. It was the capital of Virginia from like 1700 to the next 80 years, but when the American Revolution broke out, events that affected our history took place there. George Washington was often there as a member of the Virginia legislature. Patrick Henry, the great orator of the American Revolution, was there as well. And so we're going to see some of these early buildings. There's 88 structures that date from colonial times that are still there.
For all the information on tours in June and September, visit the website spiritualheritagetours.com. That's spiritualheritagetours.com.
Then join us on one of our 2024 tours.
The loss of a child through abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth affects the emotional health of families. Feelings of anger, sadness, and regret can be overwhelming. There is hope and healing in the aftermath of a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline at 866-482-LIFE to talk with someone who has been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIFE.
The Hamilton Corner podcast and one-minute commentaries are available at afr.net. Back to the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the Hamilton Corner. Abraham Hamilton III here. As I mentioned, we will open the phone lines this segment. The number to call if you are willing to join this conversation is 888-589-8840. The number again to call is 888-589-8840. What I'm looking to learn from you, if you are single, you've never been married, what is happening in your neck of the woods that has caused you or contributed to you not being married from your perspective. And what I'm looking to do is to contrast a real people's experience with the data that I have before me, and I'm looking at marriage and the necessity of marriage and its contributions to fertility rates, because as it stands, our nation and almost all civilized nations are not reproducing at a level sufficient to replace our existing populace. And I don't want to keep people holding. So I have, there's Haiti has descended into utter chaos. And I wanted to get to some of that, but I want to start this conversation first. So we will begin in not Los Angeles. We'll begin in Louisiana, where Kim is on the line. And I want to remind you that when we have this conversation, I'm not going to condemn anybody. I just want to hear from you what's going on or your perspective. I may ask a follow-up question or two just for clarity, but I just want to hear what's going on where you are. So, Kim, thank you for calling the Hamilton Corner. Welcome to the program.
Oh, hello, Abe, and you are welcome. Thank you for hosting. I love listening to your program. Try to catch it every evening on the drive home.
Thank you for doing that. I really, really, really appreciate
God bless you.
Okay,
yes,
so now you know the question on the table, right?
Yes.
What is happening in your part of the country? What has contributed to you not being married? I believe you're not married. You've never been married. Is that right?
No, never have.
Okay. All right. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
It's a little difficult to say. I will tell you a little bit about my history.
Okay.
At the age of 10, my mom read a book by, she heard about Ruth Bell Graham and how that she had begun praying for her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so we began praying at a young age. And all I can say, I've dated some people who were very nice, but I just never have felt, as I prayed it through, the people I dated, and I never felt like God was saying, yes, take this to the next level. This is my will for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just come to a point where if it happens, it happens. I pined over it for many, many years, but I'm just at a point where, Lord, if you want this to happen, it has to be you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might disagree with that. They might think, oh, well, you need to put yourself out there more. But anyway, we'll just see.
Wow. To that, I would just say stick with the Bible. But let me ask this one question. And I heard you refer to the Lord, so that makes me believe that you are a member of the Lord's bride and you are invested in your local church. Is marriage prioritized and taught about in your local church often?
Yes, I would say it is, but we used to have a very large singles group,
mm-hmm.
very, very large.
Mm-hmm.
And that, we don't even have a singles ministry anymore.
Okay.
And so whenever you look at the population of our particular parish here in Louisiana, it's interesting that almost 50% of the population is single. And so I'm thinking, where are they? If they're not in in our church and not in other churches, where are they?
Very good question. Kim, thank you so much for calling and participating in this conversation. We could be, viewed as a little bit more personal than some of the times the conversations we have on this show. We'll go next to Texas, where Bobby is on the line. Bobby, thank you for calling the Hamilton Corner. Welcome to the program.
Abraham, thank you for taking my call. I listen to you, brother, and we're just from different mothers. For me growing up, I was first one time in my life. Abraham, I was the first juvenile to be tried as an adult. I learned at a young age from a friend of mine that my mother and my brothers and sisters are not my real brothers and sisters. And the devil used that little lie that I latched onto, and every aspect of marriage and way I grew up in Southern Illinois. My mom married a town drunk. It just wasn't good, and I just thought, I ain't doing none of that. But then the Lord got a hold of me in 2012. It changed all of that. So here I am, 55 years old, never been married, had one child, had the great privilege of letting her die in my arms, because God knew that's what it was going to take to get a hold of me. And when he did, now I won't do it no way but his. Shacking up ain't the way, people. Don't go down the devil's route. Stick with God's way, and you'll find the right woman or the right man, and nothing will come between it.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for your call and your comments. So Bobby is sharing that his life experiences really shaped his perception of marriage and really made him think negatively of it, but the Lord arrested him, pun intended, Bobby. And it changed his whole perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy to share some of these personal aspects of our lives, and so I really appreciate you doing that for the entire audience here. We'll go next to Ohio, where Sandra is on the line. Sandra, thank you for calling the Hamilton Corner. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, Brother Abe. I appreciate your show.
Good evening, Sister Sandra. I appreciate you calling.
I think, but I think a big part is the sexual revolution. Because for me to say no, there's 20 others to say yes.
Now, I'm going to interpret for the people that's way in the back. When Sister Sandra say for me to say no, she's saying no to what the folks was advocating for in the sexual revolution. But they got 20 others that are saying, si, senor. Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
Right. I mean, even the older fellows. I mean, I'm 59. I was seeing a guy that was 71, and, he didn't want to be bothered because I wasn't willing to go to bed with him.
Wow.
But, life goes on.
Wow. Yeah, Sandra, I really think you really hit on something there. Thank you so much for bringing that up, how the sexual revolution has impacted it, because there used to be almost a cultural norm in our country to where it was anticipated. I'm not saying people didn't deviate, but there was an anticipation that physical intimacy followed matrimonial commitment. But when you had the sexual revolution combined with third wave feminism, by the way, that separated, I'll say, the physical pleasures from its purpose within the bounds of holy matrimony, then you have, as my grandmother would say, why secure said bovine commitments if you can get access to the others for free. Now, some of y'all gonna need translation. I'm gonna say it just like that. I'm gonna leave it there. We'll go next to Kentucky, to where Britton is on the phone. Did I pronounce your name properly, Britton? Uh-oh.
Like Great Britain.
Britain, yeah, like Great. Wait. Well, we're gonna just call you Great Britain then. Great Britain is on the line, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hamilton Corner.
Greatness is overrated. But anyway, okay, so I'm 46. I've never been married, no kids. And the long and short is I grew up in a bad, violent home situation. And I was also with undiagnosed autism all the way up until I was 30. And at 15, I was kicked out and abandoned by my family, and I've been on my own ever since. And so I developed borderline because of what I experienced. So through all that, I had a hard time connecting with people and fitting in and all that kind of things you can imagine. And so the only girls I was attracting were ones that had more bats in the belfry than I did. And so even trying to go to church, trying to meet someone decent through church, so that's never worked out. And I deal with a lot of deep depression, so I quit going to church because being there by myself all the time and being around people, families and friends and all that, I'm just sitting there. I just got to the point I can't deal with it anymore. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
Brendan, thank you for calling. I know it's not easy to share all of that information. I do pray, however, that in spite of what you've experienced historically, that the Lord does draw you and restore you to corporate worship, because that is a vital, vital component, not just for relationship purposes, but really for sanctification, and not just what you could receive, but what you could contribute to a local assembly. But thank you for calling and sharing that with everybody. We'll go next to Florida, where Dee is on the line. Dee, thank you for calling the Hamilton Corner. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I appreciate your program, and I listen to you all the time. Thank you so much for the information you bring.
Oh, it is truly, truly, truly my pleasure. Go right ahead, Dee. What is happening in your neck of the woods in the land of DeSantis?
Basically, family issues growing up between my mom and dad really dissuaded me from wanting to be married. So I wasn't interested in the least. About my 30s, I began to lighten up on that hard stance, and I just basically said to the Lord, if you want me married, you've got to bring me somebody, because I'm not mature enough to pick somebody, so you got to put him in front of me. And I've just been praying that all along, and so far the Lord hasn't brought me anybody, so I presume that is his will for my life.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you for you calling and sharing that as well. And I'm sure as many people are listening to the callers, that lots of people are saying, yeah, I agree with that, or saying, oh, no, I don't agree with that. But this is interesting because the data doesn't take into consideration the wide variance of experience that lots of people have. Because, like I said, it's one thing to look at hard data on the page, and it's another thing to actually have firsthand testimony from people. But let's continue the conversation. We'll go next to Tennessee, where LaShonda is on the line. LaShonda, thank you for calling the Hamilton Corner. Welcome to the program. Yes, go right ahead.
Oh, hello. Hi, how are everybody doing?
We're doing very well, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Well, let me tell you what's going on with me. Let me see. Next month I'll be 49, never been married, 2 children grown, no grandchildren. I take care of my business, but the other lady, I don't remember her name, and I agree with her. It's like the sexual thing. This is my thing. If I'm not good enough for you to wait until we get married, it's nothing, because you can have a relationship with somebody, you don't have to have sex with them, and it's like now with these ages and days, it's like that's all guys want, is sex. And like I said, a relationship is more than just sex. Get to know me, let's get to know one another. Let's get to know, and see if we both believe in the same God, to see what's on your bloodline, what's on my bloodline, so we can pray together. Maybe it's generational curses. Let's get through all of that first. Versus, when people say, what can you bring to the table? We're not talking about that. We got to make sure that we, are in line with the same God. Our yoke have to be even, because I think a lot of people now just get married just for show. And it's another thing. I'm trying to hurry up. When the Lord do send me somebody, he's going to have to whoop me across my head with a sandal to let me know, daughter, this is the one, because I'm not going for no crap. However, when the Lord do bring me someone, we're going to go to the courthouse, because I believe that when 2 people get married, to me, it's personal, and it's just between me, that person, and the Lord.
All right.
After we get married, and then that's when I'll, let people know, hey, when did you get married? Oh, we got married like a month ago, we went to the courthouse because sometimes when you tell people what's going on, instead of them praying for you, they'll be praying against you. So I'm gonna be quiet so the next caller can come in. But I just had, to say that because it do. It seems like it's all about sex, and it's not, And I'm gonna say one more thing. A lot of women mess it up too because they're shacking up, living together, having sex. If you already doing this, if you getting a cow for free, you don't need to marry her.
Hey, you
he's
got
getting everything already. So,
utter
right,
access
so why
before.
would he
LaShonda, thank you for calling. LaShonda had to get some off her chest. I know we have people holding. I guess we need to continue this conversation later. We got more fellas. Man. Goodness. I guess I should have expected this, but I didn't. I didn't know how it was going to go. But LaShonda had lots to say, and it is in this hypersexualized culture that we have. What I was going to ask, I didn't get to ask today. I was saying, are we talking about men that's in the church that's trying to get LaShonda and one of our other sisters calling saying, wait, these dudes are trying to cross into undefiled territory while they're being defiled. Oh, Lord, help us today and every day. Y'all have a good evening.